Hi there everyone, Lars here from Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And today I'm going to continue on with my D&D story that I've been telling now for about the past 2 months. This story right here may not seem like a whole lot to those of you who come across this and you're like, oof, Lars, why are you telling us this D&D story when there's so many other things you could be talking about? Well, for one thing, I love this story. Number two, once again, there's actually a lot that you can learn from storytelling through Dungeons & Dragons. I really want to get into that with this particular video. So I'll be carrying on where I left off with our team splits. Once again, I have been playing Dungeons & Dragons with a number of students that I taught and some who I didn't teach at the time. And the party gotten rather large. They'd gone off on their separate adventures, most of whom had been going off to hunt down a drow because after following multiple clues, the players believed that the drow that they had seen, who had been in charge of this murderous chair that had been responsible for killing tons of people throughout the city of Erralial, that this drow was with a bunch of other drow, and that this whole murder chair mystery had just been the prelude, the opening salvo to a large-scale invasion on the part of the drow people. So they were trying to find this drow wizard and cut him off from reporting to wherever the drow were and stopping this invasion before it began. And this led them to go through these catacombs within a hellhole at the northern end of the city. It had taken them then into the sewers where they met up with the elves Leo and Lucius, who had been themselves hunting down the remaining gangsters from the massive fight involving the murder chair, and their buddies were out on the other side of the city getting blasted by a fireball. So there's a whole lot going on, but essentially we have our main characters, Leo Lucius, teaming up with Finrin, the toy shop owner and artificer, Velios, our secretly Aasimar paladin, who's been working with the Imperial Guard, and then we also have our other mercenaries, Ursula and Cyrus. These have been the main group who've been hunting down the drow, whereas Lucifer and Ryu are very chaotic characters, are hunting down the Blue Ravens. However, the two chaotic characters, one of them being chaotic evil, which is always fun to see, got themselves knocked out with a fireball and woke up in police custody. This meant that the very next day, the heroes had to go and bail them out using all of their charisma and connections, because after filling an entire tunnel with a fireball and nearly murdering everyone, the city guard were very, very wary of these two, which made it really hilarious that the character who's playing as Ryu, once again, this is Ryu from Danmachi, wanted to join up with the city guard. Yeah, it didn't happen. In any case, there were still people to hunt down, and the team asked, well, are you two elves going to join us for going after the drow? And the two elves are like, no, we still haven't yet confirmed that we went after the tagger. Once again, this is all to hunt down one singular tagger. So they go off and they do their own thing while the others prepared to that night to go back underground and confront the drow. So I have to continue on with the story being separate. Let's first go on over to our very good friends, Lucifer and Ryu, who joined up again with the city guard. And city guard were very trepidatious about this right here, for one last final push to find the tagger and the remaining members of the gang. Come to find out, these guys right here are not truly part of the Blue Ravens. Instead, actually, they are posers trying to enter in with the gang of the Blue Ravens. The Blue Ravens themselves are part of a much grander network of gang guilds that help to control the underbelly of the Empire. There are 5 of them. The Blue Ravens are one of the big 5. And these guys are trying to get in good with them so that way they can join up with the gang. The gang, however, has completely cut them off, and so these guys have gotten very desperate and decide that they're going to do one crazy last stand. Getting desperate for support and for recognition, they decide to take out an entire guard tower. So they invade it, and the city guard, as well as the Imperial Guard, team up with these two mercenaries, Rio and Lucifer, to take on these remaining gang members. As they fight their way up the tower, they're bombarded with all different kinds of spells. Lucifer meets the guy who he had tried to murder way back when in the basement. The one who managed to escape through the booby trap tunnel is still there. And guess what? He manages to escape by the skin of his teeth, realizing that Lucifer, with a chair leg, is overpowering him and just barely manages to escape. Meanwhile, Rio goes to confront our tagger, who turns out to be a half-elf himself. This young man was a rather troubled soul, being the son of an elven man and of a female human. And he, for whatever reason, because the players never found out because they killed him, was really upset with the elves within the city of Erralial, hence leading to his derogatory and racist graffiti all across the different elven communities within the city of Erralial. However, there was a whole lot of backstory to this character that I came up with, a lot of very interesting stuff that could have been explored, but when you have a chaotic, evil player, in the mix, well, you normally don't tend to get to those kinds of stories. Ryu blasts the guy and murders him. And this leads me to something to consider as a writer. Now then, you are going to come up with a lot of backstory for a lot of characters. Some characters are going to be very important, some of only middling importance, and some of way lesser importance. It's honestly good for you to consider who your characters are. Man, I nearly went really rogue there with that sentence. It's very important for you to consider who your characters are. And the reason for that is because you need to understand the weight of the decisions that are made within your story. Ryu murdering this tagger has a massive impact on the family. Not that the players ever found that out, because once the murder was done, they were off. Huzzah! That's what murder hobos do. But there's a lot of questions that are left unanswered then for that family. Why would their son, the son of a member of the city guard, a very respected person, want to join up with one of the most dangerous gangs in the entire empire? And why also would he act in such a vile manner towards his own people? This is something that you might want to be cognizant of when you are creating your characters. Think about who these people really are. What motivates them? What drives them? Honestly, if you don't do that, it's very easy to forget the importance of your characters. It's a sin that I have committed multiple times within my own writing. And it's really sad because when I go back, I want to enjoy these characters a little bit more. But even I, as the creator, looking at them, it's like they're just side characters. They don't mean anything. And so then I don't care about them. And if I, as the writer, don't care about them, then how much my reader is going to care about them? Which then means I really have to go back and I have to think about who these characters are and then imbue them with real personality. And even if they're not there for very long, that personality still should shine through. A very good example of this is from the Beyonder series by Brandon Mull. Brandon Mull has a lot of characters that just kind of go through this revolving door. You see them once and they're gone. You never see them again. However, he gives them real personality in every single scene. So even though they're only there for just one scene or for one chapter, they're memorable. And you want to go back when you're done with the book and you're just like, man, I remember this character. That character was a lot of fun, or that character was extremely sinister, or that character was really mysterious. I want to know more. And it brings you back to the story again and again and again. That is the strength of good characters. Even a good supporting side cast that's only there for a scene. That is the strength of good characters, and that's something that D&D can really teach you in creating your characters. Now, once again, in D&D, because it's shared storytelling, that means that the players might not engage with said characters, and then they miss out on story opportunities. The great thing about this is that within the same campaign, there was another similar setup, and that time, the players did actually follow through with unlocking the history behind these characters. So let's proceed then with that side of the story. So the rest of the cast right there, Cyrus, Ursula, Finran, Velios, Leo, and Lucius, band together with as much supplies as possible, with all of their spell slots ready to be used as they descend once again through the catacombs into the sewers and towards the Drow. There was an illusionary waterfall. Or I should say that the waterfall itself wasn't actually an illusion. The waterfall was part of the sewer system, but there was an illusionary wall right behind the waterfall that they had to discover. Once they discovered that wall and were able to, before they passed through it, they were smart. They were very smart, these players. They checked for traps and found that there was a trap. They broke the trap, which would have alarmed the people on the other side. They then slid on through. What they discovered was something that they were not expecting. It seemed as though a large creature had burrowed a hole through the wall and had uncovered a strange room. This room had multiple tiles, and depending on the tile that they stepped on, it would trigger a blast of either fire energy, ice energy, poison, air, water, ice, something that would be absolutely devastating. They had to make sure that they stepped on the right tiles to not get blasted by these spells. And it was clear that whoever had crossed through here before had not known this and had suffered some consequences. As they traversed this room, they realized that the room had doors. One door that was to the right and one door that was to the left. The team split. Leo and Lucius decided to go to the right while the others went to the left. Leo and Lucius began to discover this far extending hallway of multiple rooms, each room with its own devious tricks, images that would come to life, poison in wells, rooms that would actually try to devour you with large mouths and teeth. To the left was a puzzle room that would slowly constrict on in piece by piece and smash everyone inside into jelly unless they stepped once again on the right tiles. Well, lucky enough for those who went to the left, they discovered that some of the tiles had been marked for safety. So they quickly traversed these tiles to get to the other side of the room and discovered an entire camp of Drow and their slaves peacefully slumbering. Meanwhile, Leo and Lucius tried to probe as far as they could to the right, leading to Leo being munched on by one of the rooms, making it all the way to the other side after doing some impressive acrobatics, but now being cut off from Lucius. And so Leo had to survive some death saving throws, barely managed to stabilize, and was passed out on the far side of this murder hallway. Lucius went back to tell the others of what happened to Leo and discovered the predicament. The predicament meaning that there's a bunch of Drow, Drugar, and a bunch of others waiting within this larger cavern. There was this large cavern that had a bubbling spring and fountain in the center of it. There were these massive murals that stretched up to a second floor balcony that wrapped around this large room, stalactites dripping down from the top, and multiple other doors leading to other dangerous rooms. I was curious, where exactly were these Drow going? It was clear that these invading Drow were dealing with a problem of their own, and these rooms were pretty ancient. They possibly even older than the old foundations of the city of Erralial itself. Well, our intrepid heroes unfortunately snuck a little too far into the room and alerted a goblin guard. Suddenly the alarms went up and the entire camp flew into a frenzy of activity, with these Drow warriors coming and leading the charge with their magic and incredible weapons against the heroes. The heroes were hard-pressed, having to use up all of their tricks just to stay alive. This was an encounter that I, as the Dungeon Master, I intended this to go one of three different ways. Either I was going to get a total party kill by overwhelming them with a lot of different soldiers and a very good, well-balanced team of Drow adventurers, Or they could figure out a way to negotiate with the drow and unlock the story of what was really going on. Or they could kill them all. And so we'd see what would happen right here. And at first, it was definitely proceeding with this just general slaughter. Erralial and Finrin were primed and ready to go, easily dealing out death and destruction, whereas the other characters made sure to pick off the Duergar and the goblins, and so that way they would not be overwhelmed by just these little peon characters. Well, as the fighting progressed, Velios managed to heavily injure one of the drow, eliciting a very interesting response from a male drow that was in the group, who seemed to be very concerned for this female drow. Velios picked up on the cues and decided to spare the female and say, look, we can continue fighting and I'll kill her, or we come to talk. Well, the male drow says, let's talk. The other drow, however, get really angry with this and fly into a range. Well, Velios, realizing that he has that he has right here essentially a good prisoner, some good insurance, at least against one other drow, he can keep 2 drow out of the fight. So he says, I promise that if you help us out, she won't die. Suddenly, one drow goes traitor, turns on the other drow, completely shifting the dynamics of the battle. Well, all other attempts at diplomacy fail, and they go on a killing spree, killing nearly everyone except for one drow female and a handful of Duergar who managed to escape through a spell. And with all of the rest now dead, and now with 2 drow technically prisoners, Erralial and Finrin heal their prisoners and say, okay, we need to explain to us what is going on here. And it's a good thing that they did this, because come to find out, the drow are not launching a full-scale invasion of the city of Erralial. At least not yet. That's definitely something that they wouldn't mind doing later on down the road. But as for right now, they are extremely troubled. The clerics have heard through their deity, through the Spider Queen, that something has come to this world. Something ancient, something powerful, and something that isn't part of the normal pantheon of gods. Well, that's rather disturbing. The drow were able to divine the location of this other power, and it's at the city of Erralial. They have come to seek out what is going on here because they're really worried. They've received visions and dreams that if this power is not stopped, it will overrun the entire world and kill them all. So, they're here to stop that in their own way. And, well, our heroes have just prevented that. Well, the heroes share information that there's another drow, a wizard, who was working with a bunch of gangs and had a murder chair. Well, these drow say that's completely new to them. And if it's a male drow, must mean that he has been exiled from the people. So they're like, okay, well, this is obviously then an enemy, and they think, maybe that's what these visions are all about. Maybe it's actually leading us to an exile who's trying to get revenge on us by teaming up with whatever great evil there is. So suddenly now the heroes begin to think, wow, there's a whole lot more to this than what we thought. We need to keep these drow safe. And so they take the drow back with them, and they smuggle them into Finrin's shop. And there they hold them safe, secure, while they try to figure out what they can do with these drow. Well, our 2 murder hobos got back from what they're doing, and the entire gang had to spend an entire session preventing these murder hobos from finding out about the drow and just killing them. Once again, it's really weird to say that Lucifer, who's again our true, at least labeled, chaotic evil character, ended up actually being really cool when he found out about the drow. We then have our other character, Ryu, who is supposed to be lawful good, or at least neutral good, but being played by a chaotic evil player wanted to try to murder the drow. So it nearly led to everyone versus the one elf, and kind of when he realized, he's like, oh, dang it, I'm going to die if I actually try to do this. So what this meant is that with one character trying to now murder their prisoners slash somewhat allies, these two drow, that the team then needed to figure out really who they were and figure out how they could help them out. And what they discovered was that these two drow, the drow male, whose name was Nox Alrin, and the female drow, whose name was Alumini, were scouts. And that Alumini is the younger sister of one of the clerics who had been receiving these visions of what was to come. And Nox is obviously infatuated in love with Alumini, and they come to discern that Alumini is keeping it from everyone else that she loves him as well. And come to find out, there's a bit of a curse on Nox as well. He's been cursed by the Spider Queen to take all the damage that she takes because he loves her more than he loves his own goddess. And the team's like, oh, holy dang. And he's now been essentially charged to always go into battle where he will then suffer for her and he will die. And it's this whole cruel thing because, hey, it's the Spider Queen. It's what she does. It's what Loth does. Loth is horrible. Well, the team then says, you know what we're going to do? We are going to solve all this. We're going to solve what's going on here. Who is this drow wizard? What are the gangs doing? What are these visions all about, and how can we save these two drow? Because, you know, if we went through the whole process of trying to save them, we might as well really make these two drow part of our team. And so a whole new layer of the adventure began to open up. And that's the value with, once again, having these kinds of backgrounds. This is something that the players could have easily missed if they had just either run away, been killed, or slaughtered everyone. And this is kind of the reward for both the players and for the creator, the Dungeon Master, for going deeper into your characters. Once again, if you give all of your characters a true backstory, motivations, personalities, when the time comes to play into that, it really lands well. It gives the story greater meaning, it gives the story real weight, and it opens up all kinds of possibilities for where it could go. And that's what you really want in a story. You want possibilities. You want memorable characters. And especially for D&D, which is so open, which is based on the choices that the players make, you need to make sure that you spread as many trails as possible by creating very vibrant and deep characters. So once again, this is where playing Dungeons & Dragons can be really, really good for opening up all of that kind of possibility, for giving you a chance to really get a taste of what it all takes to create good, memorable characters who are well fleshed out. Even if that never makes it onto the page, Dungeons & Dragons will help you to do that. So that's essentially my story, my advice right there. I wish you all the best of luck in your own writing endeavors, and if you are playing Dungeons & Dragons, have a ton of fun with your group. If you haven't played D&D before, I highly recommend it. Take some time, do some research, get together with some good friends who are okay with trying it out, or with a friend that you trust who's already played it before. Have some real fun. And if you're looking for more writing advice, then please check out our other videos here on the channel, or better yet, go on over to our podcast, Camille's Harem, where you'll find all great episodes where we either tear into other stories or we talk about deeper aspects of the writing process. We also have more resources for you to check out. All of the links are down in the description. Thank you for joining us on this adventure that we call writing, and until the next video, y'all, tschüss.